Hello, everybody, and welcome to what I am now calling "Hi, I'm Tom." That is my podcast that I'm going to be doing from now on. I did the one episode that was on my is on my YouTube page, and now I am doing my second episode, and I finally came up with a name. It is "Hi, I'm Tom," where I just sit here and I ramble on about my sports takes. For right now, it's kind of I think it's just going to be a whatever I decide it's going to be kind of show. You know what I mean? I grew up loving broadcasting, loving sports talk. I think I might have even mentioned this on my first video. I grew up loving sports talk and sports talk radio. And then I listened to a lot of regular, drive time radio, like Opie and Anthony show back in the day. Elvis Duran, if you're a Z100 listener in the New York area. Um, I grew up listening to a lot of that, and I love talk radio. It's always been so much fun. I really loved podcasting. I've been podcasting for quite a few years now with the Grindhouse Radio. Mentioned it in my last podcast. I'm on the Grindhouse Radio. We're a pop culture celebrity interview show. We talk about all things current events, pop culture news, and then we do a new celebrity guest every week. It's your typical, like pop culture talk podcast. And we do that comes out every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wow, I literally just burped into the mic. How unprofessional of me. But it comes out every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can get it wherever you can get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, literally everywhere. You just search the Grindhouse Radio and it comes right up. So if you can go give that a hit, that'd be really great. I need to figure out where I'm putting this camera. Like, it's right here, but whenever I look back at these videos and I'm editing it, I feel like I'm looking above the camera, like at my bulletin board up here. So I don't know. I got to figure it out. I got a new camera I'm trying. See, this will probably get set up in the next couple of days, and I got another one over there. It's a work in progress. Me starting my own podcast is absolutely a work in progress because I've wanted to do one for years. I want to do something on my own for years because I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I watch a lot of streams, and I figure I'd do my own thing. And not necessarily know where else I'll go. But what I do know is I love sports. I grew up listening to WFAN, still listen to it every day. And that's kind of what I always wanted to talk about. And I guess, actually, real quick, before we get into it, I would like to address the comments that are in my other video. It's kind of insane. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth on this, maybe on GHR next week. But I have a bunch of people in my comments saying that I am the reason that our former co-host, Steve Zambo, is no longer with the Grindhouse Radio, and I gotta say that that's not true. Me and Steve are actually very good friends. Been friends for a really long time. It was an amicable split. Just decided to go different ways, and he left on his own accord, and we're still actually very good friends. I loved working with the dude. Some of the best times that I have in podcasting were putting the show together. It was me, Steve, and another one of our coworkers, Scott Eisenberg, who does a show, Just Shoot the Flick, with his wife. And that's on all streaming platforms as well, I believe. So go check that out. And so this is my sports podcast. Hi, I'm Tom. I couldn't come up with a name last week. I'm going to have no imaging for it because I'm still working on it. Like I said, this is a work in progress, but hi, I'm Tom. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you could, please hit me with a subscribe, follow, just support is here. Like, I'm just here to have fun, here to enjoy myself. And so I figure, I'm doing this late in the week. I want to talk about the Giants eventually at some point today because I love the Giants. I'm a Giants fan, Mets fan, Islanders fan. But I got to talk about the Mets because we had what is probably the biggest win of the Mets season, which I'm recording this on Tuesday. Probably see this either Tuesday night or Friday, but I'm recording this on Tuesday. I'm recording this on Thursday, so getting my days mixed up. I'm recording this on Thursday. The Mets played probably their biggest game of the year last year against the Miami Marlins, and I think I tweeted out the day before when they lost on Tuesday that I can't stand playing the Marlins at the end of the season may in fact kill me one day because it's the pessimistic Met fan in me. It's just that when games matter and it's really important. A division's on the line, a trip to the playoffs is on the line. The Mets play the Marlins, and it doesn't matter how good or bad the Marlins are. The Marlins always play spoiler, and they ruin the end of the season for the Mets. It's just how it always happens. It is a cursed feud that the Mets have to be a part of, and you just kind of thought that might happen this weekend. They get the Marlins get that first win. It was absolutely demoralizing. Of course, the Braves win, and you get tied. You're tied for the lead in the NL East, and now you're just scoreboard watching the entire time. And initially when the Marlins take the lead, you're like, well, this game's over. I've kind of seen this before. I've seen the Mets absolutely fall apart when the Marlins come to town. The offense has looked almost lifeless. You know what I mean? Lindor and Pete, for the most part, outside of this series, were carrying the team for a little bit, and Pete was kind of just getting out of a slump. And you just weren't necessarily confident. You know what I mean? I know Eduardo Escobar, the hero of last night, I know he's been having a pretty solid month. I know he's had good numbers. Let's take a look and see what that is. Eduardo Escobar Timber stats. I know that people have been throwing it around like all day on sports radio. Like literally, I've just heard about how September is the month of Eduardo Escobar. And it kind of is, you know what I mean? He's been, Eduardo Escobar has had a really crappy tenure as a Met so far. You know what I mean? Like, he's been here. He hasn't really come up with the big hit. He's been okay defensively, but just the bat never really got going. I would joke with people saying every single time, I felt like every single time Eduardo Escobar got a hit, it was, you would hear, oh, he needed that. Oh, Escobar was in a slump. He needed that hit. He needed the hit to get out of the funk. And it was just, I felt like it was just every time. He hits a home run. Oh, man, Eduardo really needed that home run. Just bleeds a single out of the infield. Oh, Escobar needed that. He really needed that for his confidence going forward. And I was joking with my brothers and some of my family that he was saving it. Eduardo Escobar was just saving all of his talent for when it mattered in September and evidently October. So let's take a look at the chart. Last 30 games, he's got 8 home runs, 25 RBIs, 8 walks. He's batting .312 with an on-base percentage of .356, a slugging percentage of .587. .312. You know what I mean? Eduardo Escobar was having a ferocious year. Terrible year. I don't know. Ferocious. What kind of word was that? Was having an atrocious year. Can't believe I just said that. An atrocious year. Just came up with a new word. But decided when it mattered, the dude was going to play hero. I mean, because they don't win that game without Eduardo Escobar. Like, can I tell you, there aren't many things that infuriate me more than when the Mets leave runners on base. It's freaking brutal. When you know they have guys on the team that can put the ball in play and get the big hit, you just hate it when you see the bases loaded and they don't get a run. First and second and they don't get a run. Second and third and they don't get a run. You know what I mean? So when you see Pete not being able to come up big, when you see Lindor flying out with runners in scoring position, when you see McNeil flying out with runners in scoring position, the guys in the lineup that you're expecting to get the big hit just continuously not come up with it, you just get really discouraged and you just feel like all of the things that happen usually are going to happen again. The Braves are still going to be good, and the Mets are just going to trip over themselves playing the Marlins. They're going to get overtaken by the Braves, and there we are playing in the wild card round. But that isn't what happened. We don't gotta. We can be negative all we want, because that's what Met fans are. Met fans are mostly like negative 9 times out of 10. Even though this is the best season of Mets baseball I've ever watched in my 30 years of being on this earth, this is the best Mets team I've ever had the privilege of watching. But you still, like, because we've just been so accustomed, like, the Mets don't win. I think the Mets might have won the division like 2 or 3 times in my entire life. Like, I think this is the Mets. The Mets have been around since '62, and this is like the 10th time that they've made the playoffs. Like, that's banana lands. I think it's like 10. I think it's like the 10th time they made the playoffs, which is crazy. Especially when you have the Yankees in town and they make the playoffs every year, and their fans will still complain. So like negativity and pessimism is just it's just in our DNA. It's just who we are as fans because we what can go wrong usually will go wrong. That's what Stephen A. Smith on ESPN says about the Cowboys. But but obviously, with Steve Cohen being here and the way the Mets have been run and the way the Mets have looked all year, I mean, like they're doing their best to turn the tide. And you just loved it at the end of the game when Eduardo is trying to speak English, not use an interpreter. He's trying to speak English himself, just to let it out to the fans, just how much it meant to him. You know what I mean? To give them something to cheer about, like how big of a moment and month this has been for this dude because he's just got nothing but ridicule and beat down by people. They want to see Guillorme start over him. I've said that. I want to see Guillorme start over him because he was a zero in the lineup for a while. To see him come through feels great. To see him help exercise the demon of playing the Marlins at the end of the season when these games matter was absolutely great. And now, after doing that, they go into the series in Atlanta this weekend. Up a game, which is amazing. That was probably the best feeling in the world. Seeing the Marlins win, seeing the Nationals win over the Braves, and then watching Eduardo Escobar get that game-winning hit just was chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. It was beautiful. It just was the best feeling in the world because you knew that the Mets were going into Atlanta, one game up on the Braves. All they got to do is win one. Take one for I'd love it if you could sweep, obviously. Take two, amazing, but you just got to really get one and then take care of business against the Nationals. And I know what critics and people are going to say. It's like I'm making light of the taking care of business against the Nationals thing because we watched the Mets get handled by the Nationals. You know what I mean? Like the Mets have shown that sure, they could beat the Dodgers, sure, we could beat the Braves. They could beat the good teams in baseball. But when it comes to like the Cubs, the Nats, the Marlins at some points, they could play down to them. You know what I mean? So like is it totally far-fetched to say that the Mets will go into Washington and not take care of business? Absolutely. Yeah, that's totally a possibility, but I'm not speaking that into existence. I think the Mets are better than that, and I feel like crunch time, when it matters, like this team has shown, they'll rise to the occasion. Like they came from behind tonight. And I know that's not indicative of how they've been playing consistently towards the end of the season. But we gotta remember that this is a team that has the comeback gene in them. You know what I mean? Like it's not the first time we've seen them come back from losing to win the game late and win the game in the end. You know what I mean? I remember the game in St. Louis. I remember the game in Philly. So this team's got the grit in them. This team's got the when they need to get the win, they'll get the win. They'll have some crushing losses. There have been some abysmal losses this year, but they are this is the best Mets team I've ever seen. I've been around 30 years. I probably 25 of them I'll be as Mets fan. I like to say that my fandom started when I was like 5 years old because I feel like that's when you're like can cognitively remember things. As I butcher the English language and can't pronounce words. That's what you can remember stuff, 5 years old. So I say like 25 years, been a Met fan. This is the best team I've ever seen. That includes 2000, that includes 06, that includes 2015. This is vastly better than 2015 because if you told me at the beginning of the season that we were going to be in the World Series in 2015, I thought you were freaking crazy. Bananas. I would think you should probably be committed, but they did. And I feel like that should be the thing that gives us hope or gives people hope. You know what I mean? Like the Mets in 2015 had no business being in the World Series. Really, they didn't. They had an okay pitching staff. The offense really wasn't all that great. Like, let me see the 2015 Mets lineup. 2015 Mets lineup. '15 New York Mets statistics. It was Kevin Plawecki, Lucas Duda, Daniel Murphy, Wilmer Flores, mute site, Wilmer Flores, Eric Campbell. Eric Campbell was starting at third. You guys remember that? Soup. Michael Kadire, who was basically on life alert the whole season. Juan Lagares, he was batting 259. That's actually not bad. Eric Campbell's batting 197. Curtis Granderson, love Curtis Granderson. We had Kelly Johnson and Wanya Uribe carried the team when they got him at the trade deadline. I loved that. But like, think about that. That's starting. Kevin Plawecki behind the plate. Nothing special. Lucas Duda, who sure he came up with some big hits, but is Lucas Duda. He's not even playing anymore. Wilmer Flores, who I will admit I miss Wilmer. I wish he didn't sign that extension in San Francisco. I'd love him to come back. Daniel Murphy, who they probably should have re-signed, but there's a bunch of zeros in this lineup. Like I said, Kevin Plawecki, Lucas Duda, Eric Campbell, Michael Kadire, Juan Lagares. Yeah, I mean, like, you're dealing with Ruben Tejada, Travis d'Arnaud, Yoenis Cespedes was a beast. Conforto, rookie. David Wright, obviously the man. But then you got John Maryberry Jr., Kirk Neuenhuis, Dilson Herrera, Anthony Recker. I don't even know who that is. Johnny Manel, Daniel Muno, Eric Young Jr., friggin' first base coach for the Nats right now. You know what I mean? Like, this is not a... Like, it's amazing that Yoenis Cespedes was able to hit a home run for the entire end of the season, like literally every day in September. And then Daniel Murphy could carry him through the playoffs. That's what happened. That team had no business being in the World Series. This team this year does. You know what I mean? Like, Jeff McNeil's having an unbelievable year. Lindor bounce back year. Clutch hit, big hit after big hit. Pete's, I know he's slumping, and that, oh my God, that blown away slider that he swung at yesterday irked the hell out of me. But Pete's been good, having a crazy year, like 40 home runs this year. Nimmo's having a great year in his contract here, consistently getting on base. I think he slumped a little recently, but has been an animal. Marte's one of the best signings the Mets had. Hopefully he comes back soon. But this team's got talent up and down the lineup when they're healthy. And the rotation's what it is. You know what I mean? It's Scherzer and Jake. Scherzer, Jake, Bassett. I mean, the three starters that you're going to see this weekend against Atlanta, that's it. And they'll figure out if they're going to throw Cookie or Taiwan in there. But that's it. This team is light years better than 2015. So that's where you should be excited that you could see this team played in the World Series. I absolutely could. Well, let's see. They give him DeGrom on Friday, which will be exciting. Can't wait for that. Hopefully he can hold it together because he's been having some shaky starts. The start against the Pirates and the most recent one was not great. So let's see if he can hold it together. And this was the strength going into the year. This was it. You were excited because we were gonna have DeGrom and Scherzer in the same rotation. Like you can't ask for anything better than that. So now they just got to go do it. And I fully believe that they can. They got to win the division. They don't have to win the division. They're making the playoffs anyway, but it'd be great to win the division and just go right to the NLDS. That would be great. And then take care of business from there. The bullpen still scares me, but it's the Mets bullpen. You just death taxes, and the Mets will not have a lights out bullpen. They'll have lights out closer. Sound the trumpets. Edwin Diaz is an absolute animal, but they will not have a solid bullpen. I'm just convinced of it. Obviously, I'm not going to be a jerk. Congratulations, Aaron Judge. As of this recording, he tied Roger Maris. Awesome. Great. It is cool. It is cool when you break records. But, I don't like the Yankees. I mostly don't like Yankee fans. I can appreciate the history because I love baseball. I love the history of baseball. It's all amazing. I can appreciate it. Mickey Mantle was great. Babe Ruth, cool. Aaron Judge is a really good player and deserves to be the MVP. Anybody that says otherwise is insane. I don't like. When you talk about the whole MVP thing, I understand. Shohei Ohtani's awesome. I love Shohei. I wish I'm crossing my fingers that Steve Cohen could get him on the Mets at some point. You know what I mean? When his contract's up. I think it's next year. Shohei's contract's up. But I don't even think it's really all that close. I understand that Shohei Ohtani does stuff that we've never seen before. I totally get it. Pitches lights out and can hit, nukes to the out of the stadium. Like, it's unreal, and I wish he played on the East Coast so I got to see him more. But he plays in Anaheim, and you'd never see him. I see highlights on Twitter, but that's about it. So I know, like, I'm not denying Shohei Ohtani's greatness, but I mean, let's ask yourself this question: If you took the, with Shohei Ohtani, are the Angels making the playoffs? No. If you took Shohei Ohtani off the Angels, does it really matter? Sure, yes, they'll be down an absolute all-star, but they're still not going to make the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like, even with Shohei Ohtani being the most amazing player in baseball right now, one of the most amazing players in baseball right now, his performance is almost irrelevant, because whether he's there or not, the Angels are still the Angels, and they're still just going to be a dumpster fire of a team not making the playoffs. Aaron Judge, on the other hand, is playing on the Yankees, having an unreal year. Like I said, tied Roger Maris for home runs, for a Yankee record in home runs, is fighting for the Triple Crown, is a dude that hits for power and average. It's crazy because you never see that anymore. Has been healthy all year because he's had an injury problem most of his career. But if you took Aaron Judge off of the New York Yankees, there is no way they are where they are right now. If you took Aaron Judge off of the New York Yankees, this lead that they had a 15-game lead at one point. I think it might be like 7 or 8 now, but they wouldn't have locked up the AL East for as long as they have. They wouldn't have had that insane run that they were on to start the season. Like I said, where they got like a 15-game lead in the division. That would have never happened without Aaron Judge. Without Aaron Judge having this historic contract year. And I think that's kind of what MVP is, the most valuable player to your team. If you took Aaron Judge off the Yankees, there's no way they're doing what they're doing right now. You know what I mean? Like, do you really think the Yankees are where they are with IKF, Josh Donaldson, Giancarlo Stanton, who's been hurt all year, Gleyber Torres, who's been up and down all year, Anthony Rizzo, whose back gave out, DJ LeMahieu, who's looked like a shell of himself a lot this year, Oswaldo Cabrera, who's like a utility guy who's been okay, but Aaron Hicks has been a bum. If you took Aaron Judge, if you're a Yankee fan watching, if you took Aaron Judge off of the New York Yankees, which you might have to worry about next year, are they where they are right now? And the answer is hell no, not even close. They're probably chasing the Blue Jays or the Rays right now if they don't have Aaron Judge. Maybe not, because the Blue Jays and the Rays definitely underperformed this year and weren't as good as everybody had hoped they would be or thought they were going to be going in. But the Yankees definitely aren't as good right now in this position without Aaron Judge, which I feel like makes him the most valuable player. How much value do you have to your team? And while I believe I can agree the argument Shohei Ohtani is doing things that we've never seen before, I understand it, but is it valuable to the team? Sure, it's going to get butts and seats and make people buy tickets, but it's evidently not translating to more wins, because the Angels are still in, like, what's the Angels record right now? Let's take a look. MLB.com. Where are the Angels in the standings? I know they're not making the playoffs. I saw the post on Instagram officially eliminating the Angels. Like, I think it was earlier this week. Where are they in the standings, as the MLB.com is just being incredibly slow, like freaking 1,000-year-old tortoise slow. So let me just go on the score. We'll find out in literally 2 seconds. Standings, American League, they're in third place in the AL West. 32 games back of the Houston Astros. So, like, you take away Shohei Ohtani, what are they 36 games back? Are they closer to the Athletics, 45 games, who are 45 and a half games back? Like, taking off Shohei Ohtani, sure, they'll be a worse team, but, like, does it really matter, because they're already bad? You know what I mean? So, I get it. He's amazing. I wish I got to see him more. I wish I got to see him play more. But Shohei Ohtani is not the MVP over Aaron Judge. And it pains me to say that, because, again, I don't like the Yankees one bit. I'm a dude that grew up in the 90s and early 2000s. When you had the Yankee fans that are like just young enough to remember the 90s of the 90s Yankees, like the 96 Yankees and stuff like that run of World Series, and then the one in '09. So like it just made my life a living hell being a Mets fan because I just got to hear the 27 rings, 27 rings. So I think, like I said, I think I hate Yankee fans more than I hate the actual Yankees. But that being said, Aaron Judge is the MVP, and it isn't even close. It really isn't. You know, uh, Shohei's great, but Aaron Judge is having literally a historic season. So, and without this historic season, the Yankees wouldn't be in contention. I think that in and of itself makes Judge the MVP, or makes Judge have to be the MVP. But regarding his tying Roger Maris or hitting however many home runs after it, it really kind of, it's crazy to me that anybody, it's obviously going to have to be Yankee fans, but anybody that would consider this the record, like the record for single season home runs, is freaking insane. Like, I look, you could say what you want about the steroid era. Okay. Baseball knew what was going on. Baseball knew what was going on. Knew the guys that were doing steroids. Knew people were juicing, but didn't care because it was putting butts in the seats. It was a conversation. Baseball was at its peak of popularity because you had Bonds, McGwire, and Sosa just juice it up and hitting a jillion home runs. You know what I mean? So like that happened. You can't just pretend like it didn't happen. Like there's no separate record. It's not like this is the most home runs. This is the most single season home runs, and then this is the most single season home runs clean. You can't do that. You know what I mean? Like nobody cares. The record is Barry Bonds' record, and Aaron Judge broke a Yankee record. That's it. There's no splitting. Judge, I believe Judge said it himself, but he grew up a Barry Bonds fan, a Giants fan. This is ridiculous. If you believe that Aaron Judge is the home run king now, or the single season home run king now, because he hits however many home runs after Roger Maris, okay, you're probably a Yankee fan, and there's nothing I could say to change your mind. But it's Barry Bonds' record, and it's always going to be Barry Bonds' record until somebody hits more. And I just don't think we're ever going to get to that point because Barry Bonds was probably juicing. Never tested positive. I think that's something that's really important. He was because of just how massive he got, but he never tested positive. So he does have that card that he can play. Yeah, I mean, like he could just like drop the mic and be like, never tested positive. Game. Yeah, I mean, like, and there's nothing anybody could say about that because he didn't. For all we know, it could all be speculation, and we could all just be wrong. And like maybe this dude just ate a lot and just bulked up and just lifted weights and got huge. I don't know if that's physically possible. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a personal trainer. I don't know how that works, but maybe he did it himself. Maybe without steroids. I don't think that's the case, but if you never test positive, do you really have the proof? No, you don't. So you could appreciate Aaron Judge having his historic year. Maybe he wins the Triple Crown, breaks the Yankee record. If you're a Yankee fan, that's fun. But if you think Aaron Judge is the single season home run king, I don't know what to tell you. I think you're crazy. It's Barry Bonds' record because if you look up the MLB record books, you go to MLB.com, you go look at any of the records. When you see single season home runs, there's going to be no asterisk. There are no asterisks. It's going to be Barry Bonds at the top of the list. And then let's see. I think it's single season home run record because I always forget. Yep, it's Barry Bonds at 73, McGwire at 70, Sammy Sosa at 66, McGwire again at 65, Sammy Sosa 64, Sammy Sosa 63, and then Aaron Judge at 61. So I get it. You want to people want to punish the steroid guys, and they want to take them out of the record books as if they never happened. But they did. It did happen. Bonds did launch 73 home runs in a season, juiced or not. It happened. Baseball knew what was happening, so you kind of just got to live with it. It exists. The record is not tainted because you could believe it's tainted, but baseball knew what was going on. So many people around the league were doing it. You just got to accept it. Barry Bonds is the single season home run king and the home run king, period. So that's just the way I look at it. I'm not on board with this whole rewriting history thing and pretending like Bonds didn't exist. I used to be, actually. When I was a kid, I was totally on the board of with don't put him in the hall, don't put steroid guys in the Hall of Fame. Uh, Basically excommunicate him from baseball, give him the Pete Rose treatment, and I just flipped. Like I look at it as the history of baseball, and if you can't tell the history of baseball without specific players or specific people, I think they deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And you can't tell the history of baseball without a lot of these guys, without the steroid guys in the steroid era, because that's a big part of baseball. Baseball profited off of it, and then it was a stain on their reputation. You know what I mean? Like they got both ends of it. It was a double-edged sword. Because they cracked down on it, people stopped doing it, and then it was a conversation all the time. Who's doing PEDs? Can you really trust this guy? It was always a conversation. But it happened. You can't just get rid of the record books and erase the records because like they didn't happen, because they did. People watched Barry Bonds hit all those home runs, so it happened. You can't pretend like it didn't. So, like maybe like I don't know. I don't know if Judge will ever be able to actually break the 73 mark, because that's a lot of home runs in a single season, especially if you're not juicing. But I don't know. And is Judge hitting those home runs in San Francisco next year? Because I think he wore the sweatshirt, I think, this week that said like New York or nowhere or something like that. And I think it was in like the New York Times font on the hoodie. And I don't know. I feel like that was like everybody's looking at it like it's reassuring. You know what I mean? Like I guess most people aren't reading too into it because he could just be hyping himself up for the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like, because he is still a New York Yankee. They are still on a quest to win a World Series. They are still on a quest to, he is still on a mission to win the Triple Crown. So, of course, he's going to New York or nothing, because he's confident that he feels like him and his team, him and his guys can go win a World Series. But I don't think him wearing a hoodie that says New York or nowhere means he's staying here. You hear from Michael Kay all the time, one of the Yankee announcers, that he's not too confident that the Yankees are going to throw however much money it takes at him, because the Yankees are now this fiscally responsible team that doesn't go out and pay the most money for a lot of guys. They, except for Garrett Cole and trading for Stanton, they're much more money conscious, and they don't want to go over the luxury tax too much, and maybe have to face the Steve Cohen tax that we saw. So that even Michael Kay, who's close to the Yankees, the Yankee broadcaster, doesn't think necessarily that Aaron Judge is going to re-sign with the Yankees. I think he will, because a dude that's having this historic of a season is probably one of the best players they've developed in years. And is like the cornerstone face of your franchise, literally one of the best players in all of baseball. Like when you get a guy like that, you don't just let him walk away. He's setting your team's record for single season home runs while potentially winning a Triple Crown, and doing it while staying healthy the whole season. Aaron Judge really didn't spend, if he spent time on the IL, it was early in the season, and that was it. This dude was a perfect player for the most part all season, hitting all these home runs and batting over 300. Like, I don't understand. I don't know how you could let a guy walk away from your team like that and go tell your fans that you're a World Series or bust organization, because the Yankees are always this cliche, it's World Series or the season was a failure. So if that's your mindset and you're just going to let Aaron Judge go walk to San Francisco or in their case, God forbid, Boston, how do you say, yeah, we're all about winning, and you do that? You know what I mean? Like, you going to trade everybody and go get Juan Soto from the Padres, who I believe is still not having let's take a look at Juan Soto. Was having a rough go of it when he first got traded to the to the Padres. Let's see. Can I break it down by like last 7 games? I know I could before. I don't know why it's not letting me do that now. Let's go to MLB.com. Juan Soto last 30 games. So since the trade deadline, he's batting 212, not great. Slugging 365. He's got four home runs, 12 RBIs, 26 walks. Like, he hasn't been the same guy that we saw in Washington. Now, I'm not saying that Juan Soto's falling off a cliff, but I'm just wondering, like, is that the Yankee move? Because I don't know if the Padres going to be able to pay Soto long term. They got a lot of guys under contract. They got a lot of they're already paying a lot of money. Manny Machado's making a lot. Tatis Jr.'s making a lot. I think Yu Darvish is making a lot. Blake Snell's making a lot. Like, they paid a lot of guys. So do you really think they're gonna be able to keep Juan Soto? So, like, the Yankee, if Judge walks to the Dodgers, Giants, or somebody, or the Red Sox, did the Yankees go, all right, I'll give you Volpe and who's the other guy? Dominguez? I'll give you our farm, and we'll just get Juan Soto and stick him in the outfield. Did they do that? I don't know. Because you'd have to. Like, if you're gonna let Judge walk, you got to get somebody that is a superstar. You got to get somebody that you can sell to the fans as, like, okay, we might have let Judge go, but we got this guy. And Juan Soto, what is he? 24 years old. He's born in '98. I can't do that math in my head. Hold on one second. Calculator. So we're going to do 2022 minus 1998. 24. He's 24 years old. Judge is, like, about to be, what, 30? How old's Aaron Judge? I think he is 30. I think he's going to be 31. Judge is 30 years old. Born April 26, 1992. He's 30 years old. Going to be 31 next year. I guess that Yankee fan, if there's any Yankee fans watching, how would you feel? Like, if the Yankees let Judge walk, like, he signs like a 10-year deal for, like, more money than God. I don't know what the highest contract is right now. Highest MLB contract. Let's see if I'll probably pull this up with you guys. Let's see. Julio Rodriguez, 13 years, 200 long. Oh, these are longest. I don't want necessarily. Yeah, all right. So let's say they were, like, somebody's gonna blow it away and give Judge, like, a 10-year deal for, like, 250 million, or like $350 million, or something like that, or like $400 million. I'm terrible with these contracts, though. But yeah, Julio Rodriguez got 13 years, 210 million. Tatis Jr. got 14 years, 340. Mookie Betts got 12, 365. All right, let's say somebody offers Judge, like, 10 years, like $450 million, or like close to $500 million. Yankee fans, he goes sign somewhere else for that money. Would you be okay if the Yankees went, like, traded for Juan Soto? Is that a comparable move? I think you could probably argue that. If he went back to how he was in Washington, obviously. Like, if he's the guy that they see in San Diego right now, I'd be pissed. But you'd have to think about it, because what? Like, if the Yankees didn't do that and Judge walked, like, who do they have to get you excited? Anthony Volpe, who's a maybe, who I know is tearing it up in the minors, but he's a maybe. Dominguez, again, another like, prospects are maybes. This dude's Soto's at least proven it and won a World Series. You know what I mean? This dude isn't a maybe superstar. This dude is a superstar. So that's probably the move the Yankees have to make. If you let Judge walk, you got to get somebody to that effect, because I can't, like, as a Mets fan, if I had a guy like Aaron Judge and the Mets just, like, let him walk, I would lose my damn mind. You know what I mean? Like, look, actually, the Mets got it right now. Jacob DeGrom is going to be a free agent at the end of the year. He's opting out, and I think he's what, like 34. Playing the age game a lot today. Jacob DeGrom is 34. He's going to opt out, and the Mets are going to have to pay him. And I'm going to be pissed if they let him walk. You know what I mean? Like if he decides to sign somewhere else, it's not necessarily about the money. It's just that he wants to get out of New York. I'm not going to be mad at the Mets. You can't be mad at the Mets because there's nothing they could have done at that point. Because you heard the reports from there's apparently reports from Buster Olney that people close to him are saying that they're not sure whether or not he's going to stay with the Mets or re-sign with the Mets because he kind of wants to get out of New York and just go to a place where he can play baseball and not have to deal with crazy media. I look at that and say, yeah, that's probably just to drive up the asking price. That's probably what that's going to do. Make you feel like, oh my God, he doesn't want to stay here. Let's just pay him more money and get him to stay. But yeah, the Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher I've ever seen in my entire life. It's not even close. And if the Mets don't pay him and bring him back, I'm going to be pissed because after watching the way that this rotation uh, unfolded towards the end of the season. Like, sure, Scherzer spent some time on the IL, but he's been great. Tyler McGill was good in the beginning of the season, got hurt, and has been okay coming out of the bullpen. Mediocre or almost bad coming out of the bullpen. Cookie Carrasco spent some time on the IL and has been okay, but has had some really horrendous starts, namely the most recent one against the Marlins. Taijuan Walker has first half great, second half not so great. So like taking Jake out of this rotation would be bad. Would be real bad. And they don't have that. Oh, Bassett. I left out Bassett. Bassett has some really good games, and I feel like would be a number 2, if not close to a number 1 on most staffs. He's had some shaky starts. So losing DeGrom, like if it was a rotation of just Scherzer, Bassett, Carrasco, Walker, I guess you'd probably put David Peterson in that last spot or Tyler McGill if he didn't get hurt. Is not as scary as Jake, Scherzer, Bassett, Carrasco, Taijuan Walker. You need Jake. I know he's had a couple of shaky starts, but if I'm the Mets, I'm doing whatever they can to keep him. If somebody's going to offer him if somebody's going to go crazy, offer him 7, 8, 9, 10 years at 34 years old, maybe I taper those expectations because it's going to wind up being a lot of money for a guy that's in his late 40s. But if you can get him for a 3-4 year deal, I'd even stretch it to 5 maybe. I feel like you got to do it. You gotta. Jacob deGrom, barring a crazy overpay and and a crazy amount of years given to him, needs to retire a New York Met and have the number 48 in the along the rim of Citi Field, right next to Keith Hernandez and all the other retired numbers. That's where Jake's got to be, because he's got to be one of those guys, if they win a World Series, that we're I think Jake deserves a statue, because the man is the best pitcher this team has had since Tom Seaver. I wasn't alive for Doc. I wasn't alive for a lot of the pitching greats the Mets have had over the years. Jake is my guy. Jake is the Tom Seaver for me. He's the best pitcher I've ever seen. So he needs to retire a New York Met and go out as a New York Met. That's just the way I see it. And, go win a World Series, be the dominant pitcher that you are, go into Cooperstown wearing a Mets hat. That's how that has to end. Again, unless somebody's willing to give him an insane amount of money for 10 years. Then I understand if they say we can't do that, because that's just ludicrous. The dude's 34. You're not going to be pitching late into your 40s. A dude that hasn't pitched in almost 2 years, hasn't pitched a full season in almost 2 years, I don't feel like is going to have a long career into his 40s. So you can't. No. 7, 8, 9 years, I'd probably let him walk. But if it's if you can get him for 3, 4, 5, I'd even maybe go 6. I feel like you got to do it. You got to keep the best pitcher in baseball on the team and hope that he stays healthy. You see, the Mets and Yankees aren't too different. I mean, the difference is I do think while I just got done saying, the Mets rotation without Jacob deGrom isn't that scary, I do have to admit they handled themselves in the beginning of the season, or a lot of the season that Jake was down. They handled themselves pretty well, did enough to win. And I think I think Aaron Judge leaving the Yankees is more detrimental to the Yankees than Jacob deGrom leaving the Mets. If I'm gonna compare them, I'm saying they're similar situations. Like the Mets are a better team with Jacob deGrom. The Yankees are a better team with Aaron Judge. But if you're taking them off the teams, the Yankees suffer more than the Mets do, in my opinion. I don't think the Yankees lineup is strong enough without Aaron Judge. And I don't think I'm crazy for saying that. Again, I don't believe in Aaron Hicks. I don't believe in Anthony Rizzo to stay healthy. I don't believe in IKF for Josh Donaldson or Gleyber Torres or like not Giancarlo Stanton. Like I maybe believe in Stanton because I've seen him be like an MVP before, but the dude can't stay healthy. He's basically made of glass. He's the dude from SpongeBob that's made of glass bones and paper skin, where he's in the cast and stuff, the body cast and stuff like that, and he falls down the stairs. I know that was all fake, but that's Giancarlo Stanton. So I can't. The Yankees losing Judge would be absolutely horrendous for them. But we got some football coming on tonight. It's not all just baseball. The locals for me. Like I said, I'm a Mets fan. Mets and Yankees. I believe the Yankees are off tonight too, but both teams are off tonight. Mets getting ready for Atlanta. But we do have a football game tonight. I think it's Thursday night football. Who is it? I know it's the Dolphins versus the Bengals. That's who it is. Dolphins Bengals. And like I gotta believe that the Bengals. I feel like the Bengals playing the Jets was like the get right game. Like the Bengals are finally like, okay, we can do this. We are a team that made it to the Super Bowl last year. Like we are good enough to do that. And I think they could totally take care of business against the Dolphins, and I think they could hand the Dolphins their first loss. But I feel like this whole thing with Tua is evidence that if you're going to judge a young quarterback, if you're going to judge a guy's development, you need to give him the best of the best, or damn near close to the best in terms of weapons and receivers and stuff like that to play with. Because Tua like people were wondering if the Dolphins were going to be drafting a quarterback. Like we had that rumor where the Dolphins were trying to get Tom Brady to go there because they didn't believe in Tua. Now Tyreek Hill gets there, and they're already 3 weeks in or talking about Tua potentially being an MVP candidate. I think we should like pump the brakes a little bit and stop calling out MVP candidates in week 3 because like I think it was Keyshawn Johnson on ESPN Radio was talking about how there was that Steeler team that like rifled off like 11 wins in a season or like 12 wins in a season, like either last year or the year before. And you just knew that they were paper tigers and they weren't really going to be all that good. This is like, I feel like what you could see, like, cause you could see it happening. Like you could see the Dolphins pulling off a lot of these impressive wins and then hitting the tank and not being this dominant team that people are thinking they are, being 3-0. Totally see that happening. But back to what I was saying about Tua though. So like Tua was an afterthought. People were like thinking Tom Brady was going to replace him, that he wasn't all that great, wasn't all that accurate, didn't have a strong arm. But the dude comes in and looks like an MVP candidate once they get Tyreek Hill. So, like, it does matter. Like, of course, you want your starting quarterback to elevate the talent around him, but you need to give him something. Aaron Rodgers is struggling in Green Bay. He doesn't have Devontae Adams. He's just got a bunch of scrub receivers. And I guess that's disrespectful calling them scrubs. Sammy Watkins is good, but nobody's Devontae Adams, because Devontae Adams is one of the best wide receivers of football. Josh Allen was a subpar quarterback up until I guess he wasn't subpar. He was middle of the road up until Stephon Diggs got there. And now he's one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league. So like you need that guy. You need that guy that is going to take the attention from everybody off the field. You got to account for him on the field. Like defenses have to account for Tyreek Hill. So Tyreek Hill being one of, if not the best wide receiver in football, is going to make Jalen Waddle better. Is going to make everybody else around him better, because you have to account for that guy. You got to account for Tyreek Hill. I feel like there's a lot of times where, teams draft young starting quarterbacks and they throw them behind the line. They throw them, behind, into the starting role, and then are like, okay, you have to elevate the talent that's around you. And I feel like that doesn't always necessarily work out. You know what I mean? I feel like it doesn't work out, and I think you can see this is. I'm gonna get called a homer for this, but I think where this is kind of evident is with the Giants. With Daniel Jones. Like I heard people talking about Daniel Jones and saying how he's not the answer, and I don't necessarily think he is. I don't want anybody to think that I think Daniel Jones is the future starting quarterback or franchise quarterback of the New York Giants. But what I will say is I don't think he was necessarily given a fair shake. I think coaching matters, and I think players on the team matter. And I heard somebody saying that we know Daniel Jones isn't going to be good. I'm paraphrasing, but we know Daniel Jones isn't going to be good because we've seen him over these last 4 years be super inconsistent, a turnover machine, and injured a lot. And you've seen people defend him, saying, if you tell him, be like, well, he hasn't had anybody on the team, you'll get people saying, oh, well, he had Evan Ingram. He had Darius Slayton, who he got a good rapport with. He had Sterling Shepard, and they'll list all of these names. And out of everybody, I don't see a number one receiver. I don't see a superstar wide receiver, a superstar or a big level talent on that team. Daniel Jones has had nothing. Sterling Shepard was hurt probably every year that he's been in the every year DJ's been in the league. Evan Ingram dropped more passes than I could count. Darius Slayton is so good that he can't find his way onto the field this year. Kenny Golladay was probably the biggest waste of money any NFL teams had in my lifetime. And he's been relying on a guy named Richie James, who has been great. I've never heard of. And if you told me he was selling cars last week, I might believe you. Or 4 weeks ago, I might believe you. Like, when John Mara said that they did everything they could to ruin Daniel Jones, you believe him because the dude had no offensive line, was getting basically picked up where Eli left off. Eli was getting his brains beat in because they never fixed the O-line. Daniel Jones has been getting his brains beat in because they couldn't fix the offensive line. Saquon Barkley was like the one weapon that he had, and I'll give you that. He had Saquon Barkley, but that dude was hurt virtually all of his career. He had one good year, his rookie year, and then has just been hurt ever since. So, like, does Daniel Jones, would Daniel Jones be able to take that jump if he had a guy like Tyreek Hill? If Kenny Golladay was the guy that we thought he was in Detroit, that they thought they were getting from Detroit? And even then, was he a really number one receiver in Detroit? I know he had some good years, but like, was he that guy? Was he in the class of a Tyreek Hill, a Devontae Adams, a Stephon Diggs, a Justin Jefferson? Was he in that conversation? I don't remember. He's been so bad, I don't remember him even ever being good. But you have those examples of Tua and Josh Allen, of guys that like you need. That's like two examples I understand, but they're the only two that come to mind right now, and it's the two that are being talked about most. It's a quarterback needs his safety net, his guy that he could always rely on, or the superstar that he can count on getting everybody else opportunities because they have to account for him. Daniel Jones never had that. Daniel Jones never had a Tyreek Hill, never had a Justin Jefferson, never had a Stephon Diggs, never had any of that. You thought he was getting it with Kenny Golladay, and you don't. Kenny Golladay stinks. So, it's ultimately gonna end with Daniel Jones not being the quarterback of the Giants anymore because they'll go in a separate direction. Daboll and Shane will get their guy, and we'll see what happens. I don't necessarily think it's at all a foregone conclusion that he's gonna be gone next year. I love that I just moved right into the Giants. We'll get to some other stuff, but I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he's gonna be gone next year, simply for the fact that if they win too many games, which I'm not getting ahead of myself, they're 2-1. If they win too many games, they might not be in position to take a quarterback or have the draft capital to take a quarterback. So they might have to roll with DJ again. They might have to roll, maybe giving him a short-term deal, not a lot of money, because who's going to pay him a lot after after the years that he's been in the league so far? Who's going to pay him? So there might not be much competition. So they might have to. They might have to pay him, bring him back on a short-term deal as like a bridge guy until they find the guy that they're confident with. And maybe, just maybe, it's like Daniel Jones has been in the league for 4 years. It's basically had a different coordinator every year. And has to learn a whole new offense. So he's had to learn a whole new offense with no talent around him and barely an offensive line. and you expect him to go out and be that franchise quarterback that can lead your team, if that's not setting someone up to fail, I don't know what is. So yeah, we'll probably maybe have a new quarterback next year, or DJ will be the stopgap until they find their guy. I'm not saying Daniel Jones is the answer for the New York Giants. I'm just saying he might not be as bad as everybody likes to say he is, because he hasn't been given the true opportunity to take that step, because he had garbage coaches, Pat Shermer, Joe Judge, Jason Garrett, and not a real team to work with. That team should not have been in that game against the Dallas Cowboys, even with Cooper Rush playing. But they were. They had a chance to go down, and if Sills doesn't fall down, maybe DJ makes a nice play over the middle, and the Giants' drive is still going and doesn't end with a pick to Diggs. You never know. Didn't happen that way, and you can't go on what ifs. But like I said again, while I believe odds are Daniel Jones is not the answer for the Giants, I don't think he's been given a fair shake, and I don't think he's been able to show just how good he is, because he doesn't have a team around him to support him or help him out or make his life any easier, because he was running for his life. But how did I get to the Giants? I was literally just talking about the Dolphins and the Bengals. But yeah, that's tonight's game. It's actually on in like a half hour. It's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see. Maybe I'll pause this and like I'll do like an update. I'll restart it after the game and we'll just talk about it. But yeah, I it should be a fun game. I'm curious to see if the Bengals are able to build off of what they did with the Jets and actually beat the Dolphins. And I'm curious to see if the Bengals offensive line will hold up, or they'll let Burrow get his brains beat in. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Bengals will figure it out and figure out that they are a team that used, like I said before, was in the Super Bowl last year, and will actually, pull out a win against the Miami Dolphins. That's what I'm thinking. And I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see what happens. But I do have to admit, I think it is a little premature to be talking Tua for MVP. Yeah, like if he's doing this by week like 8, 9, 10, sure. When it gets like the midpoint of the season, if Tua's still doing this and being this good, sure. And am I the only one? I'm definitely not. That thinks it's weird that Tua, like just watching Tua play because he's a lefty. Like it's so weird seeing him like stand the opposite way of like everybody else that's a starting quarterback in the NFL. Oh man, what a week. I am so happy football season's back. I love football so much. It's my girlfriend's birthday this weekend, so more than likely I won't be watching a lot of football on Sunday because we'll have to go out for, dinner with the family and stuff like that. But hopefully we'll be able to figure it out. I can't wait to see, I got to see Giants Bears. Maybe Giants can jump to 3-1. We'll see what happens, but I think I may have mentioned this. I either mentioned this in my first episode on YouTube or my second one that never aired because for some reason my computer didn't want to upload anything to YouTube. I don't get it, but apparently there was a rumor started by Tiki Barber of WFAN that Lamar Jackson may not be as committed or fond of staying in Baltimore as one would have thought at a previous point. Obviously, they didn't come to a deal before the season started. They didn't give him an extension. They didn't pay him. They didn't do a great job at. I know Rashad Bateman's good, but they didn't do a good job of putting more weapons around Lamar, and it makes you think like, would he rather leave Baltimore? Because you know that even if they don't pay him, they're gonna franchise tag him. You know what I mean? Like Lamar Jackson's a great quarterback, one of the probably 5 best quarterbacks in the league. So they're not just going to let him walk away. They're going to franchise tag him. And I believe, if I'm correct, if he signs somewhere else, the Ravens get I think 2 first-round picks or something like that. But with this alleged rift between Lamar and the Ravens, could you see him on another team next year? And what team might that be? Well, I was listening to WFAN, which is a local New York radio show. So who might they think he could be on? If you guess the Giants, you would be absolutely right. Tiki Barber said that he could wind up on the Giants next year. And, the only reason I'll take that with any, hope or encouragement is because he's the guy that broke the Mets selling to Steve Cohen or the Mets selling the team news. So where Tiki says something, my ears perk up and I get super excited because maybe he knows something. But, you know, the Giants are going to have a lot of money. They have a lot of money coming off the books. They'll have one of the higher like the higher spending limits of most of the teams in the NFL. So, like, is it a possibility that maybe would you eat two first round draft picks for Lamar Jackson? Like, would you just give those? I'd be like, there, you take my first rounder. There you go, take it for Lamar Jackson. I think I would. The dude's been, and I don't know if that's how that works. Like, if they take the picks from you, or I don't know how that works. I never actually looked that up. I probably should have done that before I did this show. But I'd definitely give up two like first round draft picks for Lamar Jackson. I think the dude is that good. He's MVP, perennial Pro Bowler, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Sure, he runs a lot, but his throwings looked a lot better. And I think if you give him actually give him some weapons and a line to protect him, I think he'd be great. And with the Giants having all of this money next year, I think it would be smart to just go out, get Lamar Jackson, and now you got your quarterback of the future. You found him, put pieces around him, and let's go win. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like the defense with Leonard Williams coming back, I hopefully be a little bit better, and maybe you can, address that in the offseason with some of the money that you got coming off the books. And if there's one way to speed up this rebuild process, it's definitely bringing in Lamar Jackson. You know what I mean? So again, I don't necessarily think it's going to happen. I'm sure the Ravens will figure it out because similar to the Aaron Judge conversation where I was saying, I don't know how you sell your fans you're looking to win by getting rid of Aaron Judge for the Yankees. I don't know how you sell your fans you're looking to win by getting rid of Lamar Jackson if you're the Baltimore Ravens. Like, how do you, as the Ravens as a team, how do you look at your fan base and say, we're doing what's in the best interest of the Baltimore Ravens by getting rid of the best player on the team? How do you do that? How do you, or the best quarterback we've had in recent memory since the good years of Joe Flacco? I know Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl, but still, like, he's probably the best Ravens quarterback I've seen in a while, if not my entire life, that I can remember. And I don't know how you would be able to sell your fans or anybody that you're committed to winning by getting rid of Lamar Jackson. I don't see how that makes sense. So I know that's a pipe dream. I know that that's probably not going to happen, but if there is really a rift between Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, the Giants I would be very happy if the Giants were the landing spot. But look, there's going to be there would be plenty of people trying to line up to get him. Depending on how the rest of the season goes, Miami might try. Who else? Tampa might try because Brady will probably be at the door at the end of the year. Atlanta maybe because Marcus Mariota's Marcus Mariota. Tennessee's got Malik Willis, so I don't know if they'll do that. Maybe San Francisco if they're like, Trey Lance is cool. Jimmy G, thanks for helping us out while Trey went down, but come on, we'll bring in Lamar Jackson and just maybe they take Trey. Maybe the Ravens take Trey Lance. I doubt that, but I'm sure there will be other potential landing spots for Lamar Jackson should he leave the Ravens next year. But like teams that are in desperate need of a quarterback right now, or at least going into next year, would probably have to be the Giants, the Bucks, and I guess New Orleans. You'd have to throw New Orleans in there because if it's between Jameis Winston and Lamar Jackson, I feel like it's not even close. Jameis does put up a lot of numbers, and allegedly has like similar numbers to Brett Favre, who we're gonna get to in a second. You definitely going with Lamar Jackson over Jameis Winston. And who else? Like, who else would need Lamar Jackson's services? Carolina, no, they just got Baker. Well, I mean, Lamar be an upgrade from Baker. So I guess like everybody would be involved. Everybody that doesn't have Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, and because the Vikings, I'd just be like, hey, do you want to take Kirk Cousins and we'll take Lamar Jackson? And then Baltimore just like hangs up the phone and then just like blocks your number. Never like don't ever call here again. Click. But yeah, that was just a cool thing because I think the Ravens. What's their record right now? Baltimore Ravens currently are let's go to their website. I've never been on the Ravens website before. They're 2-1. Okay, not bad. Think what's his face? They're running back. J.K. Dobbins isn't coming back yet, but yeah. I'm very curious. Oh wow, Week 4 Buffalo Bills versus Baltimore Ravens. This is gonna be a crazy game. Buffalo's gonna be pissed, especially after coming off the way they lost to Miami last week. I don't know. It's really unfortunate that Tiki said that at the beginning of the season because now all I've been fantasizing is about Lamar Jackson in a Giants uniform, and I wouldn't be able to handle that. That'd just be too great. But like I'm coming close to the end of the show, and I did want to say this. Like, so more information. I didn't really follow up on the story. I just think it's wild. More information is coming out about Brett Favre being involved in this Mississippi like welfare scheme where they were like embezzling a bunch of the money. I think to like build like it was a volleyball stadium or something like that. But they were using like welfare funds. Like, I don't understand how this isn't getting talked about more. Like, how's ESPN or some of these sports outlets or even news outlets not talking about the fact this dude uh is trying to scam a bunch of people at like money from a bunch of people that actually like need it. You know what I mean? Like, your opinions of the welfare system aside, you know what I mean? Because that's a whole political conversation that I'm not educated enough to even get into. Um, you're taking money from people that actually need it, and I feel like this isn't getting talked about whatsoever. And like Brett Favre deserves like if should he be found guilty? I don't even know if he was officially found guilty or not. Deserves jail time. And I feel like if it was anybody else, this would be a bigger story. But because it's Brett Favre, who was like an NFL golden boy, even though he was sending lewd pictures to reporters, to a specific reporter like years ago. He's like this NFL Hall of Famer and like golden child, but like that's pretty scummy. And like as somebody who's been making millions in the NFL, like what are you doing trying to scam welfare money from people? That's the scummiest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. And I used to like Brett Favre. I mean, he got a little annoying towards the end when he wasn't like he couldn't decide whether or not he wanted to retire, but I don't know, man. Like scamming, like taking people's welfare money is just like that is a specific kind of low. That is like a specific set of garbage human being. I believe Ted DiBiase from The $1 Million Man was involved as well. Is either him or like his son, who's also named Ted DiBiase. I don't know. It's crazy. My friend, All Even podcast. He did a whole show, I think, or had a whole segment regarding Brett Favre, the whole Brett Favre thing. I'll do a little bit more research, and maybe next week we'll talk about it a little more if any more news comes out. But you can't not talk about it because it's just ridiculous that like Brett Favre, like these rich people can just get away with stuff like this, or like have this not be talked about, have their names not dragged through the mud because you deserve it. If you did this, you deserve it. If you did this, Brett Favre, you're a garbage person and should be called out as a garbage person. But I digress. I'm going to get ready because in about 20 minutes, I have to edit this. In about 20 minutes, the football game comes on. So while I'm watching the football game, I will edit this. And we'll see what happens between the Bengals and the Miami Dolphins. And we'll see if I was right. We'll see if my previous prediction where I said I think the Bengals could win is right. Because the Bengals did look like absolute garbage to start the season, but looked like they figured it out against the New York Jets. So we shall see. But I appreciate you guys sticking around or coming here and watching. Hi, I'm Tom. That's the name of the podcast. Hi, I'm Tom podcast. I am Tom, in case you know. It's Mr. Greer everywhere on social media, but my name is Tom Greer. And if you could follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch. I'm probably going to get back into Twitch streaming at It's Mr. Greer everywhere. If you could, please hit me with a subscribe, hit me with a follow, hop in the comments as long as you're not attacking me. But if you want to attack me, feel free. If you want to do whatever you want, as long as you're within reason. Like if you start getting like violent or saying absolutely heinous stuff, I'll probably figure out a way to block you or delete your comments. But within reason, I will read and answer most. Like I said, my comments were blowing up last week over some absolutely crazy stuff that I will address on the Grindhouse Radio next week, which is actually the Grindhouse Radio should be live right now. Go check that out. It's 7 p.m. every Thursday Eastern Standard Time. Everywhere you can get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, thegrindhouseradio.com. Go check that out. Like I said, please hit follow, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. This is so much fun. I love just speaking sports into the void and seeing who would care to listen. So thank you guys so much, and have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you're watching this. I will see you all next week.